this is to both of you. Michelle writes us, in an industry inundated with new must-have technology, how do you tell young people how to balance the gear or the equipment versus the knowledge of how to use it?
Most of the time, you just kind of flounder through. If you know the basics about, a camera or an audio deck and how to interface the two, or, basic meter reading, then you can kind of fumble through any piece of gear, most piece of gears that are thrown at you. And because they do come so fast and frequently, usually you work with the other people on the set to, work with them to teach some, camera tricks in the menus, or, they can help you out with dealing with things like, where do you find the time code on the camera? Where am I plugging that into?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
See,
yeah,
so much of that is, you're right, it's kind of on the fly. Um, and oh man, I'll tell you, just from my own experience, it sure doesn't hurt to be in touch with industry publications and stuff like that. I'm, I find myself a little guilty of kind of not doing that as much as I should. And again, it's almost like a networking thing where you need to know what's current. And a lot of the best way to find it is even the manufacturers themselves have stuff, because they're all in commerce, right? And they want to sell stuff.
since the lockdown, some of the companies, one I'm specifically thinking about is Sennheiser. They're doing demos with their microphones and that. Some of the wireless companies, they'll do webcasts very similar to this, walk through their gear.
Oh, of
And
course, yeah.
back to Facebook and that, there's plenty of groups on there with people from around the world with experiences that you may be jumping into, or you may have had, and kind of see how they dealt with it, or ask a question about how you should deal with something.
Just a really quick story about this exact thing. I was on Pro Tools for over 20 years, and then when I came to Noise Floor, they actually don't use Pro Tools here. They use a program called Nuendo, and it was, at 45 years old, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to learn a whole new way to work. And it was pretty nerve wracking when at the time. And then what I quickly realized is, once I figured out where the buttons were and what they called things and how they routed things and all of that, it's just another tool. And so I always tell students and things like that, focus on the craft, focus on what you're doing. All of these programs are going to do virtually the same thing. You just got to figure out where it is. So if you're jumping from Logic to Nuendo to Pro Tools to Reaper or whatever, it's all in there. You just got to figure out where it is. And so definitely focus on the art, focus on the craft. How are you going to use that particular hammer and what it can do?
Yeah, they're only tools.
Exactly.